given that we have this chance of the competitive research grants, could be another proposal that can go in to work with the colleagues in mathematics, and we team up. And Mukono district really needs this information. They don't have anything because they're really struggling with this permission issue, of course, for them, and we give them that background information that they badly need. Will be really making an impact society. You see, the thing is all about demystifying science, technology, and innovation for community development. So really, we can work together. And I hope somebody will come up and contact me and we see how fast to move on. Because for this one, at least it's gone, but at least we can move on quickly to the next call. Then for the measures at the moment, what is in the field is that this waste is released from factories, it's not treated. So as raw as it is, this effluent is just released in the rivers. So the rivers do whatever they're supposed to do, they just wash it away down into the streams and what, and I mean all people downstream, they are affected. So at the moment there are no strategies. So the whole idea of this research is for us to get information. And we, of course, will present this information if they give us a platform at the district. And we try and guide them, at least with scientific evidence, on what to do, and also on how to implement it with the minimal resources that are usually there. So, but as of now, really, there's nothing much. Yeah? So it is all washed away. So if you go down to the confluence, everything is accumulated there, and then it ends up in River Seziwa. And it continues. Yeah, thank you very much.
So let's go direct. Question one. The first question was if what's eat in moderation is actually the balanced diet. Then number two, how does math come into this? Actually, all the data to be analyzed went through sampling. Like we talked about the p-value and all the statistical packages actually is math. Question three, how do you reduce fats how can we reduce fats in meat? Of course, cooking methods, can modify cooking methods and also trim of fats. Next question. If I don't eat for long, what happens? Actually, every food on earth is important. Just that if you don't eat, then replace the nutrients in meat with the substitutes that are due. Then strategies to disseminate this information. Actually, I'm in link with Associate Prof. Just as Kwentejeka, so we can link up with the university and advise accordingly. Then the last question was on other kinds of meat. Did you study them? No, the research was actually closed up with the only Ankole cattle. It would be brought to study everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our dear presenters. Thanks so much. Next on agenda is the keynote speech. So I would love to invite Madame Sibo Jennifer to guide us through the next session. You most welcome, Madame Sibo.
Can we all clap for the speakers? Can we give them flowers? Thank you so much, our presenters and our speakers, our discussants. It was so good, and we are still in our first session, and we are time back. But amid this task, we have received our University Chairperson Council, Professor Wabire Mangen. You are most welcome. Join me to welcome him. Thank you for honoring this event. We are so humble. And I will straight go to the next speaker, who is our keynote speaker. Our next keynote speaker is Dr. Cosmas Muchilize. Dr. Muchilize is a Ugandan engineer, a researcher, and innovation strategist whose career bridges biomedical engineering, electrical engineering, and industrial development. He earned his PhD in biomedical engineering. In other words, he's a doctor in biomedical engineering. Beyond academia, Dr. Muchilize plays a key role in national innovation policy as Superintendent of Industrial Value Chain Development at Uganda's Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat, Office of the President. You are most welcome. Please, our hands together as we come forward.
The chair of the University Council, the Dean, Faculty of Science, and any other deans in the room, members of staff, researchers, students, old and young, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, thank you for inviting me to share with you a few words at this dissemination forum for your competitive research plans, which also doubles as the great STEAM festival. But before I begin, it's only imperative that, you see, Mr. Wanyama was talking about cardiovascular disease, but you know, sitting is the new smoking. Ever since I entered this room, we have been seated, so I kindly request that you stand. And let's do this quickly. I'll use a minute. Let's roll our shoulder blades behind 3 times. Behind first. And then forward 3 times. Now we're going to take a very deep breath. And some of you do this wrongly. When you breathe in, you retract your tummy. When you breathe in, your tummy is supposed to expand. So let's breathe in and then hold. If your tummy is already here, then Mr. Wanyama was speaking to you. So let's breathe in and out. And in and out. Now let's call Jesus. If a jacket breaks, Mr. Nyama was also speaking to you. Thank you very much. Let's take our seats. Now, I work for the Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat in the Office of the President, and in my role, I'm supposed to ensure that science, technology, and innovation works for our nation, works for the economy. And it's so natural that I exit the source of technology and the source of innovation. But before I say anything else, I want to ask you a very simple question. What do you think is the difference between poor and rich nations? Is it because of their level of endowment in natural resources? Anyone? No? Is it because of their level of intelligence? Anyone? I think if we were to dwell on intelligence, Uganda would be one of the richest countries on earth, right? Yes. You know that intelligence can also be used for nefarious reasons, but that's even the corrupt use intelligence. But that's a story for another day. So what do you think is the differentiating factor between rich and poor nations? It is the extent to which they have harnessed the knowledge economy. And you can only harness the knowledge economy through innovation. Now we have a 5-step process there. Does this? Okay, now there's something bad that happened to all of us when we were growing up. We were somehow made to conform that mobile phones are not made here, cars are not made here, vaccines are not made here, that our shirts are not made here, and that became the norm. We were made to believe that we should always be consumer. And yet, we aspire to be a developed nation. Now those two are antagonistic. We are very good at primary production. We're good at producing coffee, bananas, and that has got us where we are. The economy of 5, 6, 7%. Many economists in the room, they'll tell you that is really good. But if you're growing at 5, 6, 7% and your population is growing at 4%, then the net growth is almost zero. So the rubber hits the road here. You see, we have additional attributes of manufacturing, commercialization, and that's only when we're able to touch the economy. In fact, our goal is none other than increasing the contribution of knowledge-based goods and services to the national economy. Now, this is a challenge to you since you're in a university. Do you do science well? Are you good at science? You're in the faculty of science. This is very good science, right? How about innovation? Are we good at innovation? Are we good at innovation? We understand what innovation means, right? I've put definitions there, but I don't have time to go through them. What I want you to understand is your prototypes are not innovations. In fact, stop calling yourselves innovations when you're recycling prototypes. You're only at innovation if you have a product that is in the hands of someone who can use it. Right? You have tried out the market, required certification. That is innovation, and that is where value is created. And it is important that as a university, we figure out what our role is in this spectrum. As we move from the left to the right, the role of the university may reduce. But along the way, there has to be a way it is perhaps the innovation that you're undertaking have a clear path to the market. Now, market is not buying and selling. Market can be policy. It is around the economy. Some expansion is not going to this element of the qualitative leap. Now, the qualitative leap is not just relying on increasing quantity, but also increasing quality of what you're producing. In other words, you've been producing and selling cassava flour, and now you're going to the value. Assembling, no, you have been on the maintaining and repairing phones in your nation. But now you go to designing and manufacturing IoT devices within your economy. That is a qualitative expansion. Our target is a $500 billion economy. If we went at the same rate as we are going now, we would only be at 120 billion by 2040. And the gap between where we are and where we want to go, you must have seen our Minister of Finance telling you how we have to move. We have to go like what? That is the qualitative thing. Now, science, technology, and innovation has been earmarked as the key sector because in addition to creating new value, creating new industries, I'll show you where we've not been known to participate. It is also the catalyst to creating value in areas where we have been producing raw materials. So there are 4 sectors that have been earmarked. They are so-called ATMs, aptly named. A is agro-industrialization, B is tourism, M is mineral development, including oil and gas, and S is science, technology, and innovation. Science, technology, and innovation is supposed to contribute 80% of the value. And when I come here and I'm speaking to you, I'm looking for the 80%. Because if you don't do the work, we shall not get there. Now, I know I have very little time, and I hope in future Chair, Council, Dean, I will get a more elaborate opportunity to maybe come and interact at length with the research community, and we dissect what we really have to do. But for today, I must tell you that we have set a very broad and brave ambition. We want Uganda to be the best, most technologically advanced nation in the region. If you see what's imprinted across my chest, it's making Uganda the best. And it doesn't take much to make Uganda the best, and I'll show you through some of the things we're doing, some of the interventions that we're spearheading, and you tell me if we are on the one. Now, the 405 that science, technology, innovation has to contribute must come from 100 unicorns. That's our strategy. How many of you know what a unicorn is? Anyone? Unicorn? What's a unicorn?
Stick of this horn. The front.
Apologies. It almost looks like a horse, but just one horn there. So that's what I know. Thank you.
Yes, you describe the animal. Yes. Now, that's the imagery that we use. But a unicorn in business speak is a company with a valuation of at least $1 billion. That's a unicorn. So we need 100 of those by 2040. Yes, because we're looking at a 500 billion economy. And it's only enterprise that's going to get us there. It's not politics. It is enterprise. How many do we have so far? We have just 2. I'll tell you about them. And we have many more in the pipeline. But you see, this journey is a pyramid. It's a pyramid. You see, you don't know what's going to succeed and what's going to fail. You don't know what's going to come to unicorn status and what's going to end up as a small and medium enterprise. So it started with a broad base. That's why I'm telling you that we need 20,000 innovations that have been validated. And then along the way, some will translate into IDEs, innovation-driven enterprises, that can be incubated. Among those that you incubate, some will be accelerated. There will be some high flyers. And then from those 2,000, we'll be able to get the 100 unicorns. Maybe what I should have put down here is before you get the 20,000 innovations, what's the depth and breadth of research we need as a nation to get there. And as you choose which research topic you need to undertake, please have that in mind. Where am I contributing? We usually have a bit of friction with universities because previously most of our research used to be externally funded. And you know he who calls the Bible? He who? Yeah. He who funds the Bible calls the tool. So you'll be told, oh, we are in this collaborative consortium. For you, your component is this one. You're working on a molecule X. That molecule will fit some drug in aspirin, and you'll never know. It will fit that protein interaction that you're studying will feed the next mRNA vaccine, and you'll never know. Because for you, you think that as long as you participate and publish, and you graduate, and you get promoted, and you become a professor, everything is good. Right? Get some little money, finish some apartments. We must start to think about the economic component of what we are doing. It is very important. Now, our strategy is two-pronged. One, we need to create new economies where the nation has not been known to participate. And they are listed here. Mobility, that's the automotive manufacturing with special focus on e-mobility. That's why we have our Chira motors. That's why you all of a sudden you have this proliferation of two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers on the market. Because that's the area where the government has put money. And as you revise your curricula, as you form your research groups, you know that. Unlike before, when you used to train engineers, scientists who are going to do maintenance, repair, and servicing, now you know there's an opportunity to make a vehicle at Shira Motors. You know there is a company called Kyambogo that is making electric motorcycles in India. So now at least the skills you're imparting should have a seed, should have that foresight. Because those are the jobs that you should be training for. Those are the systems, components, and parts that you should be aiming at making in your labs. Pathogen economy, that's the healthcare inputs. Vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics, personal protective equipment, all sorts of tools, including artificial intelligence that fit into healthcare, medical equipment, imaging, etc. Everything is in there. Aeronautics and space science. Is Ongom here in the room? We launched a clinicum just last week where one of your staff was a key contributor, and we really want to thank you. Even our first deadline, Edgar Mutuli was a student from here. So now, that's an industry that we are evolving because it's not just lucrative, but it is also strategic. If you don't have presence in space, then it's like you're in your bedroom and someone else knows what is happening, and for you, you do not. Infrastructure innovations, that's developing core engineering capacity of the nation. That's where we have our precision machinery. That's where we have engineering materials, material science. That's where we have adding value to our minerals. You know, there's a moratorium on export of raw minerals now, and so on and so forth. And then Industry 4.0, that's the high-tech, IoTs, artificial intelligence, big tech, cloud computing, neuromorphic computing, and many areas like that. And then the traditional economy is now where we look at your coffee, your banana, and we want to extract higher value products. We want to extend those value chains. So that we are no longer known as just a raw material supplier. Now, in the limited time I have, I just want to give you some quick highlights about what is happening in all these spaces. How many of us have been to China Motors? By show of hands? Very few. No, it is not. So you just let me know if, as university staff, you want to go to Kyambogo, only a phone call away. If you want to take your engineering students there, it's only a phone call away. Now, we have built Africa's largest electric vehicle manufacturing plant in Jinja. And it has all the competencies, from the body shop to the paint shop, the final trim and assembly, to testing. We have the largest testing track in the region for vehicles. So this is the world-class facility. And it's actually the only one that can issue vehicle identification numbers. It has been accredited as a vehicle manufactured by the World Society of Automotive Engineers, and of course the vehicle identification system has been localized by ENBS. So in the interest of time, I'll share this. I'll not play the whole video. So that is Chira Motors. My portfolio of products. So many buses, and the chair, Kyambogo University should buy a bus from Chira Motors. So we have local buses, we have executive coaches, we have so many product lines, all the way from I think 7 to 13 meter. And recently you must have heard that we sent a bus to South Africa. Yes, and it moved 13,000 kilometers, and the only fault was the tire puncture. 0 fault. These buses have a range of 500 kilometers, meaning you can drive to Kasese, and recharging takes only about 2-3 hours. And then so this is really, it's amazing technology, and the economics adds up. We've tested them on the roads, and you see the beauty about electric buses is you're not just saving the environment, but it makes economic sense because they are about 60% cheaper to operate than diesel buses. Simply put, you'll put a liter of fuel which costs you 5,500 now, and it will take you the same distance as 1 unit of electricity, which costs maybe 600 shillings at commercial rates. So even the 60% is conservative. Of course, an electric bus has less moving parts, so even you don't need many oil.